Welcome to the Power Lunch Live podcast. We have three fantastic guests here. Every week we bring together between 1 and 4 fabulous guests who will share all kinds of different topics. And for those of you who are joining us for the first time, there's no particular strategy or process in terms of, making sure it's all marketing people or all leadership people. It's just all interesting people. And it hasn't failed me yet. And looking around the screen here, it won't fail me this time either. We're going to have a great conversation. So what we're going to be doing for our guests' edification, we're going to start by going around doing a quick introduction of yourself, about a minute or so. Then we're going to go and you're going to introduce the topic that you brought to the table, which we will then kick around and have an open, free-flowing conversation about. Sometimes we talk about a topic for 10 minutes. Sometimes we talk about it for the whole hour. Who knows what we're going to do? And at the end, we'll go around and do one more wrap up at the end. And that's pretty much what we do. It's pretty simple, straightforward, and we just let it happen. So we'll begin with our introductions. So I'll start with me. I'm Michael Whitehouse. I'm the guy who knows a guy. If you watch the first 7 episodes of this, I've kept forgetting to introduce myself. So I'm going to do it this time. I'm Michael Whitehouse, the guy who knows a guy. I'm a networking concierge. People hire me to make introductions for them. I'm also running a series of summits, which you can find at guyknowsaguy.com/summits, including the Abundance Minded Entrepreneur Summit, the Entrepreneured Summit, episode 4, a new summit. If you get that, you should go to that summit. If you don't get that, don't go to that summit. You'll enjoy it. And then we're doing Haas for Business, the Humor Accelerator Summit for Business. So if you are a speaker who thinks they might be fit into one of those, go to this link right here and sign up. And if you just want to attend it, go to this link right here and register. It is free to attend. So enough about me. Let's meet our guests. So Maytte Dusseau?
Yes.
Did I get it?
Thank you so much, Michael. It's a pleasure to be here today. I'm Maytte Dusseau, and I am a law of attraction coach. And what I do is to help successful women who have played by the rules and find themselves stuck, unhappy, and unfulfilled to gain clarity on the vision for their future, ditch old stories so that they can refocus that energy on creating a life that they love. I do that through law of attraction principles because, as you know, law of attraction is all about what you focus on, you get more of. And so I work with women to really understand how powerful they are and how they can create the life that we want or that they want. We are all creating all the time. We're either doing it intentionally or we're doing it by default. And so I am passionate about helping people to know how powerful they are so that they get up every single morning and they are excited about their life.
I love everything about that. All right, next up, Elena Pastore.
Pastore.
Good. I did get a chance to mispronounce your name. Awesome.
No problem. Hello, everyone. My name is Elena Pastore, and I am a leadership and career coach. So I help individuals, groups, and teams to either level up in their current career path or profession, to transition out of career paths. And if you are a student, help you jump into a career path that's great for you, and then to really thrive and get the best out of it to ultimately live a happy, fulfilling life, working through your strengths.
Nice. And last but not least, Dona Carlisle.
Hi, I help business professionals stay focused on their weekly goals and keep their calendars and emails managed to effectively reduce their stress, raise their productivity, and see growth in their company. I am an accountability organization partner who helps business professionals with the organization and admin pieces of their business. And that includes a lot of things. Sometimes it's training them how to use an admin. I am Dona Carlisle with VA on the Spot. I'm from Indianapolis, Indiana, but I work nationally.
Awesome. Well, welcome all. And so the first topic that we are going to be talking about is Donna is actually going to lead us off. Oh. I didn't say Donna. I said Dona.
Dona. Yeah, you did.
Mumbled. Talking about delegating work. Why, when, and how.
Delegating work is the hardest thing for a business professional. When you start out a business, especially as a solopreneur, everything is tunnel vision. You're working to, I've got to do it. I'm the only one. I've got to do it. But eventually you get to a point where you're doing things that you shouldn't be doing, and that's keeping you from growing your business. So knowing when to delegate is when you are staying up till 7, 8, 10, 12, 2 in the morning trying to get everything done. A good way to think about it is if my time is getting paid for by a client, is it really worth my time to do this paperwork? You can pay me half the time, half the of what you're making, and still be able to make money working for a client, or even just a portion of what you make. It is easier to think of it that, do I want to do this? Do I like to do this? Do I really know how to do this efficiently? And if the answer is no to any of those, you need to delegate some of your tasks to someone else.
So I guess the challenge that a lot of people have with that is figure out how to delegate it. So I know for me, for example, there's a bunch of tasks which are probably delegate. I can't even say the word delegatable.
Mhm.
Say it fast enough, it sounds right. They're probably delegatable, but to do that, I have to figure out, like, how do I structure that? Well, I got to give logins to somebody. I've got to, all this different overhead. So how do you delegate the delegating, or figure out the delegating?
That's very easily done, actually. One of the things that I do in my practice, I am an accountability and organization coach too, or partner is what I call it, because I sit and I talk with you. First, we start off with an hour brainstorming, figuring out where your pain points are, what you don't want to do. And then I teach you how to use an admin. It's my partners. I meet half an hour every week to go over whatever pain points they have that week. Sometimes it's brainstorming, sometimes it's calendar, sometimes it's email. But while we're talking, I'm asking questions and I'm listening very carefully for them to say something to the effect of, "Oh, I've got to enter all that data into that paperwork." Bingo. I can do that for you. Oh, yeah, you can. So it's a matter of training. The art of using an admin has been totally lost within this country. And I think it's mainly because of technology. You've got it there at your fingerprints. It's there. I might as well just do it. And that's not always the most effective way, nor is it the smartest way if you can be spending that time getting clients or working for clients and getting paid.
It does make sense. And what about so with a lot of the technologies, it's not possible to create a secondary login. So you'd be giving the admin full access to whatever it might be, your email, your CRM, bank account, whatever. How do you account for that?
Everything that all of the passwords and everything that I get, I keep in a password keeper. So they're very secure. Once I am done with the project or with that password, it's deleted from my system. So it's just a matter of sharing it when it needs to be. As far as CRMs and email accounts, that usually is an ongoing thing. And for most programs, you can give me an administrative access to them. Some of them you cannot, but some of them you can.
Yep. So for anyone else, feel free to jump in. This isn't so much an interview. I just asking all the questions. But it's a roundtable discussion, like we're at a lunch, if you will, a power lunch, perhaps. So always feel free to jump in. No need to raise your hand. Interrupt.
I'll jump in. So, Dona, I think that for me, when I think about this, because I'm sort of at that point of needing to have an admin, but not full, even like 5 hours a week. I'm not there yet, but I know for sure that there are certain projects. And what I have found is that it's really important where that help comes from. So, I don't know that I feel comfortable going to Upworks, even though that's a place that people go to get help. I feel much more comfortable talking with people that I admire and have confidence in to say, who are you using? And
Right.
meeting that person and having that level of trust that, yes, they understand what it is that I'm doing. And sometimes I think that you have to sort of interview a number of people to really get that connection so that you feel like that person is really there being your partner. I loved when you used that word because that's really what it is.
It is. It is. A very important thing is when you're looking for an admin, you want to have a connection with them. Even when it's someone outside your door, you have to have a rapport with them to be able to really get the most out of the situation. The way I handle the affordability or usability of my services, I have a bucket system where you buy a bucket of my time. The time is good for up to a year if you so choose to use it that slowly. But most of the people, as we meet weekly or bi-weekly or even monthly, learn I can do more and more and more. So they end up using their buckets. I report after every project where you are in your bucket, how many hours you have left. And then when you're down to an hour, I'll report again and say, hey, you might want to buy another bucket. And that way it puts it in your ballpark. You can use 2 hours a month, 4 hours a month, 10 hours a month, whatever you need for that month. The next month, you may just use one. It's totally up to you. And it gives you the ability to really budget to be able to use the services.
Yeah, that's real smart.
I did that too, because my passion is to help solopreneurs get past that point of needing to delegate and learn and being able to grow again. And so this was my way of saying, hey, you can afford an admin and you can value all of the time that you pay for, however you want to do it. And this is the way I chose to do it. So.
Yeah, for me, I'm also kind of getting to that point, like Maytte said, where I could maybe use, say, an admin for 5 or so hours a week. But for me, the bigger pain point is not even the admin stuff, just other functional areas that I am not good at. Number one being social media. So I recently created Instagram and LinkedIn business accounts a couple months ago, but they've been pretty sparse because I do not have a visual eye at all for any of, how to present content in a way that's compelling and looks nice and shareable. Because I think there's really so much organic growth that can happen especially through LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, all that stuff. So I think all the principles that you're talking about, Dona, definitely apply to kind of every area of starting a business. So for me, it's interesting, and especially the partnership part, because I initially was thinking about it as, oh, well, I'm technically hiring someone, but I'm not hiring them as an employee. I'm just hiring them for a little bit of work. And I didn't really place a lot of importance on making sure that I'd spent a lot of time into learning this person, learning about them, what type of work motivates them and everything like that. And, I think that that's something that probably gets overlooked by a lot of other solopreneurs and people that are in similar positions to me.
And when you get to the point of looking for a social media person, I don't do social media. I'm like you. That's one of the areas that I'm like, I'm not as good at that as what I would want if I hired someone to do social media. But be very, very careful. There are a lot of people out there that say, oh yeah, I'm a social media manager, but they're a social media worker and participant, but they don't really know how to manage social media. So you've got to really be careful and interview very well and make sure you ask the right questions when you're interviewing for a social media manager. And if you need help with that, I've got several very good ones that I could recommend to you.
Yeah, I have
All
someone
right.
that you work with also.
Cool. Well, maybe we'll chat after about
There
that.
you go.
Yes, this is a networking event that is broadcast.
Yes.
Um,
And also the thing that I really like about what you're saying, Dona, is that when you hire an admin and you get that support, and you get to focus on your zone of genius, whatever that is, and it really does free up your bandwidth and your energy to really focus on what you're good at. And that's worth so much. And I think that, as a solopreneur, that's that fine line of, am I spending my time doing the things that I know feed my heart and feed my business versus these tasks that they got to get done.
Right.
But it's smarter to really have someone else, to outsource that. So it's wonderful that there are people that like you who love to do that.
Think of it the way I like to say, I'll do what you don't like to do, don't want to do, and don't know how to do. The easy way to think about it.
I like it. Yeah, and Elena, to your point about social media, one thing I found is fairly effective. I never hired a social media person, but what I found is effective is basically if there's something I want to share, I share it. Longer form, the better. So, whether it's video, live video, I don't have a schedule. I just have an idea and then pull my phone out and go live, or like this event. I pulled together people and said, hey, let's get together and talk about stuff. I've started doing longer form LinkedIn and Facebook content, just writing. I have a thought, write about it. I hit post, and that's what gets engagement, because that's what gets people thinking. And once they're, once they're thinking, they're like, I need to talk about this myself, and just sharing an idea in a few paragraphs. Because what's good is, in spite of what you hear from the people who want your money to manage your social media, is social media still responds very well to authentic, in-depth content. One sentence, no, people are just going to scroll by. But if you get them to read, if you get them to click the see more, then they're often going to at least like it and possibly engage, especially if you post something divisive. Not to say like right, left,
Right.
Biden, Trump divisive, but something that could be controversial in some way, parenting, leadership, good bosses, bad bosses, communication, something that'll make someone either disagree or be like, oh, I had a boss like that. Yeah.
Polls are very good too to get conversation starters on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Polls, yeah. So, and the other thing about that, Michael, is that when you do it that way, and I've struggled with that because there's so many people out there that are like, okay, you need to post on your social media platforms X amount of time, and you need to be consistent, and that's how you build your audience. But what I have found, like you, is that when I am inspired by a thought, an idea, and I do it, then that's got that inspired action energy to it. And it makes a total difference. If I write a post because I have to write a post, and that's the energy behind it, it falls flat most of the time. And then that next day, I'm like inspired by something, and that's the post that gets the most comments, the most likes, and it happens over and over again. So now I'm at the point where I'm like you. I want to post when I have something to say, and I'm allowing that I'm going to have something to say.
Yeah.
So I don't have to kind of worry about it. And that's been a little bit more freeing.
Yeah. And the sense I have actually is the algorithms may bias towards authentic content. I don't know if it's true. I haven't studied it or measured it, but given that the random, like, I have a thought, I feel inspired, gets more engagement, makes me think that the algorithms can tell if you're optimizing for, best time of day is 6 a.m. So we go out at 6 a.m. and versus it posted at 3:43. So this was probably something, because I think they know better content creates better engagement, creates longer on-site time. So I don't know if this is true, but I have the feeling that they may actually bias towards stuff that feels like it was written by the author and not written by the expert representing the author. So
Who knows? The mind of a bot.
Yeah.
Right. But that's also how you grow. I have a coach that I follow, Rich Litvin, and he's from the Prosperous Coach, if you guys have heard of that book. And he challenges his students and the people that he comes in contact in terms of his workshop to create a piece of content every day.
Mhm.
And the practice of that, whether you post it or not, gets your creative juices
Yeah.
flowing and it helps you to grow. And
Mhm.
so the more that you do that practice, I haven't quite gotten there yet, but the more you kind of do that practice, the more those ideas and those thoughts
Oh,
come to
totally.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was authentic as opposed to sitting down on Monday and writing your content for the week.
Oh, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
Because I have tried so hard. I have tried so hard to batch content and I
Yeah.
just doesn't feel right to me.
My morning motivation podcast, I batch record it. Because it's about building up energy. So each one I'm more excited for the next one. And I've got like two other thoughts that didn't fit into the last episode, so I can cascade one after next. But yeah, writing, I put all the thoughts in the piece and I'm like, but I already said everything. It's all right there. I said it. It's done. I didn't do another one. I got it right the first time. So yeah, batch writing content is challenging. So okay, I'm blanking on how to pronounce your name. Maytte?
Okay.
Huh?
Yeah, you got it.
Maytte. Okay. So I was thinking as Donna was talking, you were saying that you were looking for a someone to potentially delegate work to, and that you're a law of attraction coach, and she's on the show here, and this show is driven entirely by serendipity. That clearly you two definitely need to connect because obviously you drew her onto my show, which is a good segue for you to talk about using the law of attraction to create a business and life that you love.
Great. Thank you so much. So the law of attraction, there are a number of principles, and I'm going to go through the 5 kind of steps, and then I'm going to share with you these like 3 core elements that are about how you manifest. And then we can talk a little bit about how you implement that into your business. So the first step is knowing what you don't want. The second step is being clear about what it is that you do want, having a clear vision of what you want to manifest. Number 3 is identifying any what I call limiting beliefs or any belief systems that get in the way because they're there. Number 4 is being able to redirect that energy that was spent in that fear, doubt, worry, I can't do this mode to when you feel more empowered because you've recognized them, release them, and have a process to really hone in on what it is that you want. And then number 3 is to understand that it's also all about letting go and surrendering because you are a co-creator with the universe and God. And so you have things that you need to do and to be involved in. And then you also have to allow for things to transpire because there's always a lag time. So those are kind of the concepts that I work with my clients. But then I want to share 3 things that the first time I heard this, and I've read a number of books that have these concepts in them, and it just really validated like, okay, it can be this easy. Number 1, we've already talked about it, which is have a clear vision. Like for your business, have a clear vision of where it is that you want to go. What does your business look like in a year? What does your business look like in 5 years from now? And be able to really dial it in terms of who are you? What does your day look like 5 years from now? Like how many team members do you have? What kind of content are you putting out? How are you impacting the world and being that detail oriented? Number 2 is having unwavering faith that because you are a sovereign being and you chose to be here, that whatever it is that is in your heart and you desire, that it is yours because we live in a quantum field of infinite possibilities. And in that field, everything that you want is there and we have access to it. And more, the science is catching up to this. And then number 3 is be willing to do whatever it takes. Because like I said, you are a co-creator and you have a part that you need to do. And you got to be okay with challenges. You have to be okay with failure. And you got to keep going, because in order for you to get where you want to go, you have to keep going and believe in that vision of your future so strongly that no matter what, you're going to make it happen. So all of those things are part of creating your business. You know, you have a business plan, you have that vision, you have to know that it is achievable, and then you have to show up every single day and do the activities that you know are going to move your business further. And, you know, you hire a coach or you talk to your therapist or whatever support you need to have, so that when you have those moments of fear and doubt and worry and, oh my God, is this really going to happen, that you have a way to manage that. Because so many people go into business and when it gets tough, they decide to go. And so that's how I use law of attraction with my clients in building the business or the life that they want. Because these principles that I just talked to you about, they work in any area of your life. But in this moment, we're talking about careers or businesses.
Yeah, I love that concept with the attraction. And one thing I do want to point out is that I think you often hear the best way to do it is to have a clear vision of the future and exactly how many people and what you're going to be doing and whatnot. But I always found I had some trouble zeroing in on exactly what I wanted. But I found that if I have a clear idea without having all the details, it works better than simply saying, oh, I don't know how many people I want. Oh, I don't know what my day looks like. When I instead just said, like last month, I said, I want to do more speaking. I don't have a one sheet. I'm not sending it out anywhere, but I want to get on a stage. I want to do more speaking. So I started just recording Facebook Lives just to practice to speak. And at the end of every one, I'm like, by the way, I'd like to do more speaking. Not doing anything other than this, but I'd like to do more speaking. And the last one of the month, I got a message from someone saying, hey, I've got a speaker showcase up in New Hampshire on the 20th of April. You want to come? And I'm like, yeah. But it was a very nebulous, you know, I wasn't specifying what stage or who, if I got paid, didn't get paid. It's like, I just want to get on stage and talk to people. And, you know, good is, what is it? You know, perfect is the enemy of good. I think is something for people to remember, that some visualization is better than no visualization.
Right. No, and I think that, to your point, both of those work because it's individual to you. Mm-hmm. So if you can have a clear vision of what that looks like, then yes, you can work toward that. But one of the things that I forgot is this or something better. Yeah. So with your example, you know you want to speak. Maybe as you start speaking, you hone in on what kind of speaking you want to do. Maybe you hone in on, you know what, I want to get paid when I go speak. Because you could get a lot of speaking gigs and not get paid for them. Mm-hmm. So as you go through that process, you are able to define. So it works both ways. Yeah. It's a process.
Maytte, are you familiar with NLP?
A little bit.
Okay. I'll just a lot of the things you said really relate to NLP, and I'm in the process of getting certified for that. So I'll just share with everyone. Yeah, it's super fun. So it stands for Neuro-Linguistic Programming. And essentially, very brief definition is it's about communication with yourself, communication with others, and specifically communication between your unconscious and your conscious self. So they said that, so I did a level 1 training in January, actually in St. Petersburg, Florida, right outside of Tampa, for those of you that are not familiar. And I'm doing a master level in June where we go more into depth. And they actually told us that your unconscious mind makes up about 95% of your identity. And your conscious self is only, I think, 1 to 5% of your identity, or something along those lines. Can you still hear me okay with that noise?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. Just want to make sure. So, one of the things that we did on the first day was we had to create I forget exactly what they called it, a SMART paragraph goal. So a SMART goal in a paragraph form, where we basically had to act as if we were writing it in the future. So I would say, okay, it is December 2022, and I have these things. And you try to be as specific as you can, but you're writing it as if you already have it, and it's like 1 year, 5 year, whatever down the road. If you want to buy a house, if you want to have kids, if you want to be retired, whatever that timeline is for you. And so I did mine back in January when I took this course, and I wrote a monthly income goal for December of 2022. And one of the other things that they say is to celebrate when you make 90% of that goal. So not to be too hard on yourself to get 100%, but if you get 90%, you can kind of check the box. And this month, I hit the 90%, over the 90% of that income goal that I had for December. And a lot of, what you're saying about law of attraction, just I guess in NLP terms is kind of what I think helped me to accomplish that goal, 8 months early. So I was pretty excited about that. And through that course, I learned so much about how powerful the mind is, how, like you said, drawn to things that we focus on. And I thought that was kind of like, I don't know, a little bit of BS the first, years ago when I heard that. I was like, oh yeah, whatever. But I think it really, really is true. And I think it's super, super interesting too. Everything that, we've just talked about.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
One of the things that I teach is how powerful your mind is. And it's kind of like the iceberg. Your conscious mind is that 10% that you see, and what's happening behind the scenes is so powerful. I mean, if you Google brain processing, conscious versus unconscious, the amount of information that your unconscious brain processes and the speed of it is mind-boggling. And just think about it. It's responsible for running your body. Like, you don't have to think about breathing. You don't have to think about digestion. You don't have to think about any of that stuff. It just happens. But your unconscious mind is managing all that. So yeah, that's a great example. I've been intrigued, but don't have the bandwidth to go down that road. But I'm definitely very interested in NLP.
Something that I do is also, I heard you say failure. I took that out of my vocabulary because of the way my mind thinks. I failed at that. And I went to, I think it was Einstein's. I didn't fail. I found out a way that I can't do that. That doesn't work to do that. So, and that actually is it driven me through most of my career because it made me so I'm not afraid to try new things. I became the first person to learn all software so that I could train others. And it was a lot because I told myself, okay, I didn't fail. I just learned one way not to do it. So.
But you chose, what's so powerful about what you just said, Dona, is that you chose a different thought.
Yes.
And in choosing that different thought, you focused your energy in a positive way.
Exactly.
You could have easily has gone down that other path that is all about failure and oh my God, and I shouldn't have done it that way, and beating yourself up, which a lot of people do. And what I teach is it's just as easy as making a different choice about how you want to think. So I love that. That's a great example. Great example.
Yeah. I've also suggested that part of the mechanism of the law of attraction is that it's selection. Because as I said, your subconscious, a lot of what it does, it decides what you see and what you don't. Because if if we consciously perceived a tenth of what comes into our senses, we'd go crazy because there's just too much coming in. And it's that phenomenon. My wife told me the other day she wants to get a Jeep, and she mentioned one of the new Jeep pickup truck. It's got like a pickup truck bed. No, I'd never heard of it before. I'd never seen it before. I've seen it 4 times since she mentioned that like 3 days ago. But along those lines, that I haven't seen it in my driveway once. I had to go on the highway. Like when I drove out, I saw it. But law of attraction never works when you're sitting on the couch being like, bring me money, bring me money. Bring me money.
Yes, absolutely. That was the missing piece in The Secret. The Secret taught everybody that if you just want it and you believe you can have it, it can be yours. And that's a little bit of it, but you also have to go out there and make it happen.
Action. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like it goes without saying, but for some people, you kind of have to say it. I'm sure the people making The Secret, like, well, of course you have to go get it. You can't just sit on your couch and it comes to you. Oh, people don't realize action is necessary for everything. Oh, shoot.
We are co-creators.
Yeah, you
You
got to
have a
be.
responsibility.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely have to be doing it. I think also about the fear side, the failure side. So in 2021, as I was figuring out what my business was, in order to take the pressure off, I was driving Uber. So I was out on the road Ubering all the time. And I remember having this thought once of this seems dangerous that I'm driving around at night in strange cities, putting strangers in my car.
Right?
And wouldn't it be tragic and awful if I finally discovered what I want to do? I'm getting into this business. I'm no longer working my crappy job, and then I get killed on the road.
Oh my
And I thought, would it be? I mean, I certainly wouldn't prefer it, but if the universe decides that that's what's going to happen, it's what's going to happen. So I can worry about it and be afraid and be like, oh, maybe I'll drive less hours, and or I could simply put my faith in the universe, God, whoever's pulling levers there, that it's going to work the way it should.
Yeah.
And
a choice. I love it.
And being afraid rarely keeps people safe. I reminded my daughter when she was young, she's like 3 years old, and something spooked her. And so she took off running, tripped, smacked her face on the ground, scrape, bleeding. And I said to her, I'm like, there was nothing scary. What were you afraid of? I was afraid of that. I'm like, that's not even there. You perceived something that wasn't real, turned, ran, and hurt yourself. Your fear literally hurt you, as you were afraid of a non-existent thing and suffered a real injury because of fear. And it is one of the most profound moments to me. Hopefully she learned it. I may need to reteach it to her. But one of those profound moments about like fear is more dangerous than the thing you're afraid of much of the time.
I've always believed that, well, what I've heard is, and the reality is, that fear, like real fear, is very rare.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you have to pay attention, obviously, in all those things. But typically, fear is something that is all about keeping you safe, keeping you in your comfort zone. Mm-hmm. So I remember hearing this once, and it really made an impact on me, which is every time you feel fear, and it's not like life or death fear, that's a signal from the universe that what it is, that's your next step. Because when you feel that, it's that piece of you that wants to keep you safe and small. And so if you go out there and like go through it and get to the other side, expansion, growth, all sorts of wonderful things happen on the other side of that.
Absolutely. Well, and I think also, we're evolved to be in a more dangerous environment. If we're out in pre-agricultural times, then there is a constant level of danger. At any moment, an animal may attack, another tribe may attack. There's so our brains are built for a certain amount of danger. And if we don't have that amount of danger, it says, well, the sheet is this long with all the dangers today, and there's only 2 things on it. So, oh my goodness, what's missing from my sheet? What dangers don't I know about? Yeah, we're not hardwired to assume that society has actually protected us from danger. So like, no, there must be danger somewhere. I'm gonna find them.
Yeah, and most people live with an underlying fear, or worry, or doubt, and I think that has contributed greatly to the amount of disease that we have in the world. And so, being able to live a life that is high vibration, meaning you are in those emotions of love, happiness, contentment, appreciation, really relieves stress. One of my big things is gratitude, being able to be grateful for where you are and what is going on around you. That always trumps fear for me. When I'm feeling fearful or not in those good emotions, that's my go-to is, okay, what can I be grateful for? Because it shifts your energy. It absolutely does.
Yep. And the interesting thing, fear is the number of times that fear, like my daughter tripping on the pavement, the number of times that fear causes the problem. Like, if you're going to speak in public, you're afraid you're going to sound bad and make a fool of yourself and stutter and stumble and be unclear. And if you stutter and stumble and you're unclear, why is that? It's because you're afraid. But if you weren't afraid of coming off poorly, you'd come off fine. And once I was able to embrace that and just kind of not like I just got the book, the subtle art of not giving a can't remember, Mark something. But it's so powerful when you're just like, I'm gonna speak in front of these people. They're not
I
gonna
love
remember
that
it anyway.
book.
Yeah, I'm gonna speak, and they're not gonna remember me anyway. Whatever. I'm just gonna say some things. Or I'm gonna hop on. I mean, I've probably been live 200 times in the last 2 years in front of who knows. I don't know who's watching this right now. I could say something dumb. They could not like it.
And so
And then, yeah. Then what happens? Nothing. Nothing happens. But once you can embrace that, you talk to people totally differently, and then people are like, wow, they're so confident. They must have something really impressive going on. Like, nah, I just don't care.
and that's a muscle that you have to keep practicing, and the more you do it, the more you adopt that attitude of, you know what, it's all good.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good. Whatever's happening, it's all good. And it can be challenging for sure at times. You know?
So, Elena, I have a potluck of topics from you. So I'm going to toss it to you and let you pick which of the various. I shortened the words now, but you toss me a few things, and it's up to you. Share with us a topic, and we'll kick it around.
I like to always give a lot of options. Let's see.
Let's spin the wheel of topics.
Let's talk about value. I think that's the most broad, and that could mean a lot of different things. So let's see. I will give a few different areas, and then we can just kind of dig in from whatever sounds most interesting. So I don't totally remember what I meant when I wrote that word down, but I'll just tell you what's on my mind right now. So a lot of clients that I have, so like I said at the beginning, I do leadership and career coaching, and I work with individuals, groups, teams, all different people in all different types of capacities. So a lot of interesting times when I'm working with individuals, and I think probably often maybe they're not comfortable to express this in front of a group, or, you know, whatever it might be. But a lot of times in one-on-one settings, people that are very accomplished, very successful, have a lot of great experience and so much great value to offer, lack confidence, and don't see the value that they really have themselves. And I always find that super interesting to me, because if I sometimes look at a client and I'm like, if I had your credentials, I would have all the confidence in the world. So it's that I think that they don't value their internal experiences, their internal offerings, but also they don't know how to express the value that they have to others. So yeah, I think just talking about the way you value yourself, the way you value what you have to offer, and thinking about how others value you and how that plays into career, you know, self-worth and all of the things that we've been talking about. So
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone wants to jump in off of that.
So for someone who doesn't value themselves, what do you think is the cause of that, and the solution? Like, why would someone with the substantial credentials be like, I'm not taking it?
Yeah, I think lack of confidence is the biggest piece, or they may have been told by others that even one thing about themselves isn't valuable or isn't good enough for something specific. And in my personal experience, I have had even a couple people, I guess, impose their opinion unintentionally, their opinion of something about me to me, and either I distort the interpretation, or I say, oh, because they said this, that means they don't value this part of me, or they don't value that I have this skill, or they don't value my time, or, you know, there's a gap. So I think past experiences that could lead to lack of confidence. There could be a lot of reasons as to why people don't value themselves. And that's something that I'm still learning and exploring, you know, throughout my career and everyone that I speak to.
Remember the self-negative talk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's the
It's not
hard
good
part for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
They just, It's the negative talk. And unfortunately, what comes out of your mind or your mouth is what you feed in. So those who watch videos or television shows or have a family who are not kind to each other, they have more of an issue or a harder issue eliminating that self-doubt and that self-negative talk.
Yeah, I think also school steers us astray in terms of what is value, because in school you're taught that you alone must be good at everything. You know, the good student gets A's across the board. They're good at math, they're good at English, they're good at history, they're good at art, they're good at phys ed. You know, they're good at every single thing. And in business, the person who's successful is the one who's really good at one thing and not too catastrophically bad at a few other things. I'm basically good at one thing. It's talking to people. I'm not good at most of the other things, but talking to people includes podcasting, speaking, networking, making introductions, so I can leverage the one thing I'm good at into a business. But I'm not good at social media. I'm not good at organization. I'm not good at, all these other different things, but I don't need to be, because you don't hire a generalist, you hire a specialist.
Elena, I have a question for you. The thing that came up for me was, and I was going back to my own experience, you know, when I was coming out of high school, I really did not know what I wanted to do. I thought that I wanted to be a marketing executive. That's what I thought. So I went and started going into business classes, but I didn't have a sense of what that entailed. So I did not do well in those classes, but yet my psychology classes, I did super well. And so I went into that field from a default position. And so my question to you is, how much does career or your choice of career have to do with that valuing of yourself? Because I think that for me, in my career path, I ended up not even doing counseling and going, and I have a master's in it and not using it. I did admissions and marketing, and I did really well. But there was that little bit of imposter syndrome because I didn't know. Like, it all felt like it was kind of like by default. And yet I was good at it, but I didn't give myself credit as I was doing it. Now, in retrospect, I know I was great at it, you know, and I got the feedback that I was good, but I didn't feel it for a while. And how much do you think that has to do with it?
Yeah, I think a good amount for sure of how you, so I think your question was how much of the way you value yourself affects your career path. Is that?
I think the other way around also.
Yeah, and I think a great deal of it does. Think about students, and I, have friends even that their parents were like this, where they said, I'll pay for you to college if you are pre-law, pre-med, doctor, lawyer, things like that. And so, I mean, from a monetary perspective, if you're a student and you obviously can't afford it, you're going to want to please your parents because there's an incentive there. But simultaneously, if that's not truly what you want, you know that you're kind of defying what you really want to be doing by choosing this alternative path. So there's that piece, external pressure, whether it's that specific example or some other type of pressure. But also you don't know what you don't know. So I know that you just mentioned when you were graduating high school, going to college, you had no idea. I had no idea either. But when I was a senior in college, I realized, okay, I think I want to do consulting. I didn't know consulting was a career path at any point in my college career, really until my senior year. And then I learned about coaching and I said, okay, that sounds more like what I would prefer over consulting. So, partially people sometimes defy what they know, the path that they know their heart is pulling them towards. But at the same time, it's so hard. There's so many niche things. You can work in anything, really, truly. You can have a job in anything. And there's just so many niche things. Like even when you say marketing, I can think of 20 jobs, 20 different specific, sub topics of marketing that people can do. I think I would say go towards what you're attracted to. Maytte, how you just said you really were interested in psychology classes and then you gravitated towards that. So I would tell young people, or even, older people that are making career transitions, to be really curious, kind of, again, what attracts you, move towards what is attractive to you, and do your research and study up on what are the niche areas that you can work in within that greater topic. And I think that's really where they'll hit a gold mine and be really satisfied with your career and, obviously your life. Too many people hate their careers, and it makes me so upset because it's such a big part of your life.
Yeah.
But
Oh my goodness.
it's not as easy as it sounds. But that would be my response to that.
Which is why what you do is so important, because when you have some guidance, that's just key. So
I think for a lot of it, it's not having the goal, not knowing what you're trying to do. If you don't know what it's for, you don't know if it's any good. So, if you are focused to, like, I have a business and my business needs to make money. Okay, well, you know what your goal is. It's got to make money. So if people are paying you, you're good enough. Success. So like what is the goal? Yes, it's funny. Sometimes I'll meet someone who is getting a lot of romantic attention, shall we say. A lot of people of the gender that prefer, the orientation that prefers them, are paying attention to them, and they're like, oh, but I'm so ugly, and I got this, and I got that. And I'm like, but what is attractiveness for? It is to attract. If it is attracting, you are attractive. Whatever you think, you're not the audience. So, whatever the thing is, if you can lift heavy object, you are strong. You can't be like, well, yeah, I can lift 500-pound boulders, but I'm not actually strong. By definition, you're strong. You can lift big boulders. So I think a lot of people, they set some weird subjective measurement on whatever it is they're judging.
Yes.
Instead of an objective measure. If your business is making money, it's a profitable, well, assuming it's profitably making money. Some businesses make $100,000 and spend $150,000. But if you are making money and bringing in revenues, then you've got a business that people want to buy something from. So then be like, well, but do they really want to buy from it? Well, unless you're stealing the money, then there's obviously a value there. So I think sometimes people want to, and that's probably, limiting belief worldview kind of thing of, well, I'm not successful, so I can't make money. So the fact this money's coming to my business, well, that's an anomalous fact. The real fact is what I know, which is that I'm not good at this, in spite of all this money stuff that keeps showing up my bank account for some reason.
It's so funny listening to that, but I have similar thought processes. Well, oh, this is a one-off, or oh, this is just a special, thing that doesn't really count, right? And
Yeah.
it's funny that I still have those thoughts sometimes. I'm like, stop it, that's not true. Don't let those negative things come in your head, because it's just messing with you, and it's just not the case. But yet, when other people say the same thing to me, and I'm like, stop that right now, give yourself more credit.
Yep.
You deserve to think better. And then when it happens to me, it's like, it's so much harder to tell yourself,
oh yeah,
those great things.
Yep. Well, it's easier to attach to a positive than negative. So it's easier to say, but I am good at this thing that matters, versus, and once you know the one thing you're good at, nothing else matters, unless it's, again, something you're so catastrophically bad at that it affects the one thing. But if you're good at one thing, people pay for that one thing, and the rest of it's the rest of it's extra, the rest of it's bonus, or the rest of it's stuff you need to hire someone else to do for you.
Aren't you really always battling yourself, though, with, is there something that I can do well? I mean, a lot of people have that mindset where they can't do anything better than someone else can.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of that can be broken by talking with someone, by asking for opinions of others who will give you an honest opinion about what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to listen to that positive, or you're gonna hit a roadblock every time.
Dona, that's a great exercise that I ask my clients to do, which is, to find, 3 or 4 of their people that they admire, who know them well and whose opinion they respect, and ask them to give you 10 physical qualities of you that are positive, as well as just qualities in terms of who you are as a person.
Yeah.
And it's powerful.
It is.
because it shows what you're describing, how we feel about ourselves, and then how others view us. And that is really true. Like how people view us is who we are. We just don't recognize that. And it's a great starting point for really changing that mindset around who you are.
All right, and with that, speaking of starting points, we are at the starting point of 3 o'clock, which means it is time to go around and wrap up. So we're going to have a final parting thoughts. If your parting thoughts involve some sort of offer, ask, whatever, feel free to do that. I'll put your website up on the screen. So don't be afraid to offer a thing. Elena, you popped up first. You'll go first.
All right. Thanks everyone for listening and being here. Again, my name is Elena, and you can find me at my website below. And you can also find me on LinkedIn, just my name, and my business accounts on Instagram and LinkedIn, which I'm still working on, as you all know, at Elena Torre Coaching.
All right. And Dona.
Thank you for having me today, Michael, and everyone else for listening, for watching. You can go to my website below and find out I'm an open book there. So you can find out everything you need to find out about me and about my business, including my bucket system. For anyone who responds and mentions this, I will give a free hour a session to you, and you can try me out.
Very nice. And Maytte.
Michael, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate the opportunity. It was so good to get to know Elena and Dona. It was a great conversation today, and that just lights me up. You can find me on Inspiring Your Best Life, and Inspiring Your Best Life. And that is my Instagram. I have a Facebook page on LinkedIn. It's my name. And for anybody who mentions that they heard this, I have a free coaching call so that you get to experience what it means to be coached. And you can work on anything. And by the time that we're done with that hour, you will have some action steps and some insights around what's going on that you wanted to work on. So I'd be happy to provide that.
Such a deal. There's many people on here that are offering things folks can take advantage of. So this is if you're watching still now, which actually looks like from the numbers, there are people still watching live, which is great. It's been great watching the numbers climb a little bit each week as more and more people connect. So if you are watching this and you think I could be on that show, you can go to guywhoknowsaguy.com/powerlunch. If you're on this show and you think I want to get back on this show, you can also go to guywhoknowsaguy.com/powerlunch. By the way, if you have been on before, you don't need to necessarily fill out everything. If you've already filled it out before, you can just say same because it's all in the same spreadsheet. So, which also applies to, I bet some of the people in the audience are people who have been on the show before and are like, I should get back on there. So do feel free to apply. I think we're booking out into June or July at this point. So pretty cool for a show that I put together because too many people wanted to be on my one-on-one interview show and I needed more stage. So I built more stage. Speaking of stages, again, a reminder that I am running a series of summits one in May, one in June, one in July. The Abundance Minded Entrepreneur Summit in May. In June, we have Entrepreneured Episode 4, a new summit. And in July, we have Haas for Business, the Humor Accelerator Summit for Business. So if any of those seem like something that you should be on the stage for or in the audience for, go to this link right here and you can get involved in one or more of the summits. And with that, I will bid you in the audience adieu.